I'm excited to have all of you here with me today as we explore how Montessori pedagogy promotes a child's connection to the natural world. But before we kind of dive in and explore that topic, I'd like to take just a few moments to introduce myself as your host and the creator of this presentation. My name is Heather White. I'm a former Montessori classroom teacher, administrator, and in-home caregiver with more than a decade of experience, actually almost 15 years of experience. I now work as an educational consultant and instructional guide for adult learners who are working to receive their Montessori certification through the Center for Guided Montessori Studies. And I'm also a blog writer and a content creator for a few different organizations, including the American Montessori Society, Guide and Grow, and Miro's Toys. I hold certifications from the American Montessori Society in the 3 to 6 and 6 to 9 age groups, and I've also taught at the 9 to 12 level. I have a master's in education with a concentration in Montessori studies and an education specialist degree in school psychology. I'm also a nationally certified school psychologist. So during our time together today, we're going to cover a range of topics, starting with the benefits of outdoor learning and a connection with nature for children. And then we'll explore how Montessori schools around the world foster these connections through the use of outdoor classrooms, natural play spaces, going out experiences, and how they bring nature into the classrooms themselves. So without further ado, I wanted to start off with a little quote here from Dr. Montessori. So one of the main pillars of the Montessori philosophy is a connection with the natural world. So to showcase this, I wanted to use some inspiration from Dr. Montessori herself about the importance of children having this contact with nature. So in her book, The Secret of Childhood, Dr. Montessori advised, there must be provision for the child to have contact with nature, to understand and appreciate the order, the harmony, and the beauty in nature, so that the child may better understand and participate in the marvelous things which civilization creates. Before we hear more from Dr. Montessori and her perspective on this topic, I'd love to hear from some of you all on why you believe it's important for children to connect with nature, whether that's in the chat or if you want to use the raise hand feature. Just sharing your thoughts from your experiences or from your understanding. Why is it important for children to have a connection with nature, to have that contact with nature? Is it Razan? Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Good evening from Palestine. My name is Razan Ata. Can I introduce myself in 1 minute?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes. Thank you so much. So I finished my high school in 2012 with a grade of 97, and I entered dentistry as a start, but I realized that it's not my passion, so I transferred to nutrition and dietetics. So currently I'm an RDM, which is a registered dietitian and nutritionist. And recently I finished my master's from the Arab American University in Palestine. My master's is in health informatics. So it's like a combination of health and informatics, meaning artificial intelligence, robotics, etc. And currently I work with the YWCA, which is Young Women's Christian Association. Actually, I don't work, I'm a volunteer. So, and also I'm like a freelance in nutrition. So answering your question, actually it is important to connect children to nature because actually in Palestine we are under occupation, and Palestinian children are prohibited to enjoy nature due to the occupation, and we have the discrimination wall here. So children are prohibited here in Palestine, and this of course affects their mental health, their physical health, their education. So I think that it is a necessity to connect children with nature, to give them rights, because children, all of us have rights, and it's their right to enjoy nature, have playgrounds, get educated, and enjoy life. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you brought up some really great points. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think, what you mentioned about, the situation in Palestine, and I know there's situations in other parts of the world. I recently did a presentation for teachers in Ukraine and kind of looking at what that looks like, because again, they're in a situation where a lot of times it's not safe for children to be outdoors and engaging with nature. So we'll talk a little bit about that, ways that maybe you can create that connection with nature in a way that's a little bit safer. But I love that you mentioned that we all have rights, because that was a big point that Dr. Montessori brought up as well, is that the rights of children and the need to respect them just as we would respect other adults. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. I see Dr. Caleb, is it Magutu? If you would like to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you?
Morning and evening. Fine, thank you. Are you getting me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Are you able to get me?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. I'm grateful for this presentation. This is my fourth presentation in this series, and I'm an electrical engineer. But if you look at even the electrical engineering, we are creating things out of nature. We look at nature and then we try to create artificial, natural environment for people in the absence of the natural ones. To switch into the theme of the day, I refer you to the Bible. When God was creating the world, the first thing he did before he created man, he created nature and put all the animals and all the plants, all creation before he created man, who is a human being. And then after creating man, he put him in a garden known as the Garden of Eden. And he made sure that man had all he required to live and enjoy life in the sweetest life ever man can imagine of. Therefore, from the creation of the world, nature is a school. It is the greatest school. And in fact, we learn a lot of things from nature. And therefore, nature is a great school, not only to children, but to all, even the adults, because you realize that even the medics, when they are treating you, they will prefer you to be in a natural environment where you can enjoy nature. And you find out that children, where if you take them naturally to the environment, you find that their concentration it becomes greater and higher, and you can see them really trying to explore the nature and the way the animals behave. And then you can really see them even trying to imitate them. So nature is the greatest school ever created in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I absolutely agree. Again, you brought up some really wonderful points about, the health benefits of nature, the concentration that it inspires in children, the way that it encourages them to be curious. And I saw in the chat that it encourages and promotes creativity. Absolutely. Vishnu, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello there. Good morning, everybody.
Hello. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. I am from Guyana in the South America. I'm a teacher educator at the Teachers Training College here in Guyana. I have been previously a curriculum subject specialist at the Ministry of Education in Guyana. I speak to the question from the dimension of teaching and learning.
Mm.
And when we expose children to nature, when we provide the opportunity for them to visit nature or engage with nature in an quote unquote outdoorsy manner, we actually provide the opportunity for them to connect the concepts in teaching and learning in a way that it allows them to see how it builds upon their own existing knowledge. And that is beautiful. In mathematics, for instance, we have a concept or a strand called patterns and relations. And as an example, by engaging the children in nature or with nature, there is an immensity of patterns out there. The patterns are God created, given, and it exists all over. And we teach patterns. We ask them to build patterns. We ask them to describe patterns mathematically. What a wonderful opportunity to visit nature and see how it works, and for them to provide the opportunity for them to connect, their own knowledge to what concept is all around, in that way. And so I speak of that in that dimension. Also, from a philosophical point of view, I recall some of the greats with some of the great poets of nature poets like William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge and all these men. They wrote masterpieces, and I recall one of them offering a prescription, so to speak, of contentment when we connect with nature. If I can remember the quote, it goes like, "Oh man, open your sensibilities to the power of nature, to the beauty of sunset, to the calm strength of the mountains, to the spiritual bliss in a sunrise, and you will have peace and understanding. Such a condition is moral, and in such moral condition, the heart can do no wrong." It is really powerful in that sense. So providing children or at early stage with the opportunity to, on their own, without telling them what or anything at all, and allowing them that space to connect, whether spiritually or whether in the teaching learning process, where they learn concepts in the classroom, for instance, and they have this wonderful opportunity now to connect with it, because nature has it all, like Dr. Caleb just a while ago talked about this power of nature in that sense. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Dr. Montessori talked a little bit about like this peace or this calm that nature brings that you were describing, and that the poem that you kind of remembered or recalled was absolutely beautiful. And you're right, it is very powerful. The other thing that came to mind when you were talking about making connections to learning with nature was the Fibonacci sequence, right? That we're teaching these things in the classroom in geometry and mathematics, and then we're giving children opportunities to see them happening in the world around us. It really creates this meaningful understanding, because it's not just something that's really abstract, it becomes very concrete to them. Like they can see the way that the tree branches form or split, or in a snail, you can see the repeating pattern in a sunflower. So absolutely, it kind of grounds them, because it gives them a way to see the learning in a way that surrounds them and makes sense. I'm going to ask Dana to unmute, and then I'm just going to stop my screen sharing for just a second, because it looks like we have a little bit of a distraction there. So Dana, if you want to go ahead and unmute, and I'm going to stop my share and I'll reshare. Let's see. Dana Bob, would you like to share? Do you want to unmute yourself? right, let's see, maybe we're having some technical issues. What about, is it Opiyemi? Would you like to unmute yourself?
Hello, it's actually Opayemi, but I'm Kuyemi.
Okay, thank you for being here.
Thank you for hosting this class. This is my first time here. Okay, cutting right to the chase. The nature is very important. It's an important phenomenon in education or say academics. And for children are able to glide into nature because nature serves to children like a cloud of memories, where whatever you teach them and you relate to nature, it becomes a memory milestone. If they forget anything at any point in time and they come across such, maybe there was a bird flying around at a point in time you were teaching algebraic in mathematics, and let's pick a pigeon, for example. And the teacher is always referring to pigeons when teaching mathematics, algebraic precisely. At a certain point in time, when the child needs to recall what has been taught on algebraic and pigeons fly around, the pupil can connect instantly and say, oh, see that pigeon? And before you know it, there's a milestone reconnected in that child's mind. And suddenly the child remembers, oh, algebraic, this and this connects with this. And so nature is an important phenomenon in children's learning curve. It helps them, like I said, I see it as a memory cloud. At the same time, I also see it as a visual, it's like it's a world of television for them. They see things around them. They're able to relate to their environment as a school of nature. It's like a school of nature for them. So when you put them in a classroom and you surround them with pictures or images of any sort of, it could be floral or faunas, once you put them in such an environment with colorful things, and you begin, whatever it is you teach them, each pupil has one thing in nature to connect with easily. Some would connect with butterflies, some would connect with mango trees, some would connect with giraffes, some with ocean. Whatever it is a pupil connects with, it helps them store memories. And that becomes the way of unlocking such child's potential and help improving them in learning. Some children like to see rabbits. Rabbit then becomes their own activator. So it's very important to always put children around nature, but most particularly, it's important to know what is the memory points of each child, because every child's got their different memory point. You can't just put all of them in the midst of trees. Trees might startle some. You can't put all of them in the midst of rabbits. Rabbits might frighten some. So it now left to the teacher to understand what point of nature is friendly or frightening to the different pupils. That way, you'll be able to carry every pupil along without leaving some behind. Because the fact that we said nature is good for children doesn't mean all kinds of nature are good for them. So we have to be very careful, sensitive, because nature has a sense of sensitivity. It connects with your mind and soul. So at the same way that it connects with your mind and soul, it can also overwhelm the mind and soul if it is not addressed appropriately or it is not used in the right proportion. So as mild as nature can be, so as wild it can also be. Once you understand your pupils, you know how to direct them, you know how to put them in a phantasmagorical space for them to live and glide. That's why children will always, any time of the day, go for cartoons, because they see, when they watch cartoons, they begin to smile. Their mind changes. They see themselves in the characters or in the environment of those cartoons. And whenever you read books that's got some kind of cartoonish images, children begin to connect, because at that instance, they see themselves in the character or in the environment that I create, because it creates visual images in their minds. They begin to imagine. Children like to be creative. They like to think how such character can relate to them, or how they can relate to characters. So because of that, it's important to connect children to nature, but in the appropriate proportion.
Oh. Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Montessori talked a lot about, the role of the guide and understanding the children, learning the children. She said it was the principle of following the child. So really getting to know the students that you're working with, like you're saying, and being able to provide them experiences that are meaningful to them. Let's see, I'll see what's in the chat, and then we'll take one more comment, and then we'll go ahead and jump in. So in the chat, we see another reason why children should connect to nature is that they should know the importance of nature's benefits to lives. Children are the next generation, therefore knowing and understanding nature will enable them to have knowledge of protecting and reducing the effects of global warming. Absolutely. Another point Dr. Montessori talks about is helping children learn how to be global citizens. She talked about this concept of global citizenship, of protecting the world, understanding your place in the world. Nature as a therapy. Our kids today are too much in gadgets, and this affects their brains. Whereas if connected to nature, there's this peace, calm, and proper thinking, 100%. Let's see, one more comment. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, thank you for being here.
Thank you for allowing me to talk. And by the way, first I want to start with this thing that I'm so happy to be in this class. I'm learning so much. I've been with AIU for only 2 weeks, but I think I have a lot of things piled up in my system. Yes, I want to talk about how important for children it is to connect. I'm a science teacher. I'm from Zanzibar here. And yes, I really believe that children should be connected to the nature, because whatever we teach them, whatever we are educating them, it's connecting to their lives. So if you connect everything, whatever you teach them with the nature, they understand more of those concepts. Because like if I'm teaching about plants and animals, and they don't take to the nature, they won't understand the concept behind what I'm teaching. And at the same time, nature calms them down. It gives them peace of mind. So whatever subject you are teaching, if they are surrounded with a good nature, like greenery, ocean, or the breeze coming in, so they become calmer, they understand you well, they cooperate, and they are flexible to ask you and answer questions. So nature calms children down, and it really helps them to learn better, connecting what we are teaching them in whatever we are teaching them in concepts and relating in a real life. And thank you very much for this class.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. All right. So in another one of her books, From Childhood to Adolescence, Dr. Montessori really urged for children to have the opportunity to connect with nature. She said, there's no description, no image in any book that is capable of replacing the sight of real trees and all the life to be found around them in a real forest. Something emanates from those trees which speaks to the soul, something no book, no museum is capable of giving. So I have another question here, and I see some hands in the chat, so we'll go back for a few more minutes. So with this kind of foundational understanding of what we've discussed, of the importance of connecting with nature and what Dr. Montessori had to say, what do you think some of the benefits are then in connecting and utilizing outdoor learning in a school setting? Let's see, I see Priscilla. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yeah. Are you hearing me?
Oh.
Oh.
I can hear you now. Go ahead. Oh, it looks like you keep getting muted somehow. Let's see. Try it now.
Okay.
There we go. I can hear. Oh, it came on and it goes right back on mute. Let's see. We'll try one more time.
Okay. Hello.
Hello, we can hear you now.
Okay. This is Priscilla from Liberia. I'm an apostle, a missionary, a church planter, the CEO of House of Prayer of Miracles and Deliverance Ministry in the Republic of Liberia, Monrovia, capital city. And when you look at the area of nature, connecting to nature, it creates in children boldness. Because when you give them the connection to nature, they have boldness. They will have boldness to be able to face their world. And besides that, if you make child to be involved into day-to-day activities, you have a good legacy. That is, if you are dead and gone, the child will be able to know their way out in case of danger or in case of problem, they will be able to save themselves. So it gives them an experience to be able to connect to their world. So whenever the child is explored into knowing, the child grow bigger and the child will be able to do more than even we, the parents, can do. So when you make your child to be connecting to nature, you give your child an idea to be able to make life, an idea to be able to invest in their own system. That is, they create their own space of life. You will be able to make things to happen. Even if you are living and going somewhere, if your child is connected in nature, that child will be able to be independent. So it's also good to make your child to be independent. So when you put your child into connection with nature, you make your child to have access. You make your child to have experience. You make your child to be responsible. Yes, and there are some children that get mature. They get mature and their parents are not connecting them to nature. So if you are not connecting your child, there will be a sign of ignorance. And when they are in ignorance, the child will always make mistakes because they are not connected to nature. So that is my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you, Priscilla. And I love you. You all are kind of taking the words right out of my mouth, covering a lot of the things that Dr. Montessori said about the benefits of nature. One of the biggest things that Montessori encourages and promotes, and this was a few presentations ago, if you were able to be there, we talked about how Montessori pedagogy promotes and supports independence, like you're saying, and responsibility. We'll be talking about that in a coming presentation. So thank you so much. Let's see, I see Edwin. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, thank you very much.
Hello, thank you for being here.
Yes, I'm following from Italy in Rome City. I'm a student of theology. I find the topic very interesting, and I wish to comment this way. One of the theologians called St. Thomas Aquinas will comment that apart from the Bible, the second book that God gave us is nature, that help us to know him in a better way. And when it comes to the children, this is a way of developing the children to be thinkers, to be contemplatives, because through the effect, they will go deep down to find the cause. Where has all this beauty of nature come from? The beauty of a flower. And that is a way of driving the children to eventually think about God. Actually, in the era that even atheism is becoming a threat among the young people, who courageously will tell you that, me, I don't have faith, my parents have no faith, and we have nothing to do with God. My second comment to the children, help them to become creative and thus skill boredom, and also that they don't just limit their mind to phones, internet, video play. They can find joy also in nature, and through that one, like somebody mentioned, it helps in the climate change, global warming, and many other areas. And above everything, through nature, help us to pray, to rest, to think well. Thank you very much. Be blessed. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so if there's this spiritual piece, right? There's this It promotes creativity. I see in the chat, it builds personality and confidence. Outdoor learning provides the reality experience from the child, and they learn what they see instead of just hearing. Nature provides numerous relational avenues which speak deeply and appropriately into the child's mind, soul, and physique. Absolutely. Let's see. We'll take the 3 more comments of people that have their hands raised, and then we'll keep going in the presentation. Go ahead, Chris Edmond. Chris, are you able to unmute yourself? Would you like to share? All right, let's see. We'll go to Dana. Dana Bob, are you able to unmute yourself? Would you like to share? All right, it looks like we might be having some technical difficulties with some of our participants. So if you're not able to unmute yourself, please feel free to share in the chat. Let's see, Razan, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay. Hi again.
Hello.
So you guys can see me, right?
Yep, we can see you.
Yes. Okay, so I would like to add on what Mr. Edwin said, right, from Italy. So I think, no, actually, I believe that we are the children of God. So, and this is a blessing. I think that the benefits of incorporating children outside is actually, let's say, 5 different things. So actually it increases or enhances their connection, networking, leadership, entrepreneurship, creativity, knowledge. And I think that it like switches on the 5 senses of the brain. So they'll be able to hear, they'll be able to taste, maybe pick an apple from a tree or something. So I think it's really beneficial for their physical, mental health, and I believe it's a therapy, as you said, doctor. And also because we're in a generation of artificial intelligence, so everybody is heading to social media, and every like in our generation, every children has their iPad, their phone, their computer, and I think that actually this is destroying the neurons of the brain. And it's affecting the nervous system, it's affecting the way they think, the way they look at things. So I believe that nature is the second greatest book after the Bible, as Mr. Edwin said, and it's a blessing actually. So because not everybody can, like, there's air, there's ocean, there are trees, and not every child is able to expose themselves to nature. So we have nature, we have food, we have since we have nature, food, people around us, people who love us, support us. This is I think the biggest blessing in the world, and it's the most important thing, and it's better than even having money or having materialistic stuff. Thank you very much.
Thank you. In the chat, I see when a child's closer to nature, the child appreciates the work of God Almighty. And when a child is closer to nature, the child appreciates how good our Creator is and equally magnifies the work God has done in the whole universe. Dr. Zwanda says creativity, broad thinking, and being independent. These are the benefits. I do see the hands up. I want to make sure that we have enough time to finish the presentation. So if you want to keep your hand up, I promise I will come back to you. But we're going to keep going here. So Dr. Maria Montessori placed a really large importance on a child's experiences with nature, stating that the best way of invigorating a child is to immerse him in nature. Some of the main benefits of incorporating outdoor learning in the classroom is that it drives the forces of curiosity and exploration in children, while also offering these rich sensory experiences, like we were just describing, of sight, touch, taste even, right? Spending time in nature also promotes physical, social, emotional, and cognitive development for children. Furthermore, forming a connection with nature early on really helps children become more environmentally responsible, that global citizenship we were talking about. This viewpoint then extends from childhood into adulthood, and we have adults then that are more conscious about the decisions that they make and how they interact and how their actions impact the world. Learning outside also supports creativity and problem solving, like a lot of you have noted, and being in nature helps reduce anxious energy and promotes this focus. It's really just an excellent stress reliever. It creates a sense of calm and well-being that a lot of you were describing. Let's see, I see a comment in the chat. Let me just double check here. Exposing our pupils with different field trips help them make new experiences in different environments. Through that, they learn new things, new discoveries that trigger and generate curiosity. Absolutely. And I do see a couple comments in the chat about the handout or the copy of the slides. They will be available in your portal, so you will have access to them. Okay, so Dr. Montessori was so convinced about the power of natural learning and the natural learning environment that she really advocated for children to have this unfettered access to the outdoors. In her ideal world of what she described, there would be no separation between the indoor and the outdoor environment. The natural environment, she said, shouldn't be treated as a separate entity from the physical indoor classroom. Instead, she really saw it as an extension of a structured indoor environment. So in the outdoor classroom that's pictured here, you can see that there are some shelves set up that do have some more traditional Montessori materials on them. There's various seating options for the children. Essentially, it looks just like a classroom, Montessori classroom would indoors, but it's just been transported outside. And particularly for younger children at the toddler age or in the early childhood environment, like that 3 to 6 age group, pre-K and kindergarten, a lot of times these spaces will really include what is known in a Montessori classroom as practical life activities, but they involve water. So pouring with a funnel, using a sponge, dishwashing. So I wanted to share a few other photos with you here of a particularly inspiring outdoor Montessori classroom that was showcased on a website known as trilliummontessori.org. So these are all the same space. In the first photo, you can see the black double doors that are over on the left-hand side of the screen. So these doors go to the inside classroom. So the doors are open, the children can go in and out at their leisure. It really creates this seamless connection between the indoor and outdoor environments. There are tables here for children to work outside and other activities that are really conducive to outdoor spaces. Like we were talking about, you can see there's a station set up in the photo on the right for the children to learn how to wash different articles of clothing, or maybe some towels and rags that they use in the classroom by hand, and then they hang them on the clothesline. You see some tools for watering plants. You see a bird feeder. So things that are really help the children connect to nature. You see some plants that they'll take care of. There's other things like painting that are available that might be a little bit messier inside. Some other activities that you might see in outdoor environments are things like gardening, sweeping the sidewalk, maybe scrubbing a fence or a deck, washing windows. These are all what Dr. Montessori described as practical life activities. Here on the left is another photo of that same outdoor environment showcased by Trillium Montessori. And then on the right is a second outdoor space where you can see some other activities that children are engaging in, like yoga, gardening, creative play. The outdoor environment really doesn't have to be so elaborate, though. it's important to remember, even if you just have a few areas for children to sit, whether that's tables or desks, rugs, whether they're sitting in the grass, it just being outside in nature really does help children be more productive, attentive, calmer, and really brings this sense of joy as well. So the next thing, and I apologize, it looks like this slide did not update. I will fix that and then make sure I send the updated presentation over to you all. But the next thing that I wanted to kind of highlight is natural playscapes. So natural playscapes are something that's really popular at Montessori schools. Instead of the traditional playgrounds that have a lot of metal or plastic, it's really focused on using natural materials, because there is this richer sensorial experience that promotes that creativity that we're describing, that and kind of imaginative play that children really enjoy, and having these more natural playscapes with organic materials. So I have a couple other photos of natural playscapes for you here. You can see there's rocks for climbing, a lot of wood that's included in this environment. The next here, the children have created a little space with lots of sticks and wood and rocks. There's large branches. There's an outdoor garden, but it is, like I said, it's much more organic. It's much more natural. And what Montessorians have found is that this really encourages children to be more creative, to come up with their own types of play, rather than engaging this play that's directed by adults. I see in the chat, the benefits learning outdoors are physical activity. It encourages children to engage in physical activities like running, playing with plants, climbing, while also helping gross motor skills and overall fitness. Learning by touching things like insects, absolutely. So going out experiences, I know someone mentioned in the chat field trips. Going out experiences are really a Montessori rite of passage, if you will. They're different than field trips, because a field trip is often a whole class trip that's planned by the teacher, where going out experiences are planned entirely by students. They're in charge of gathering all the important information about the trip and ensuring that their behavior is exemplary while they are contacting the organizations or while they're there for the activity. So it really does put all of the responsibility on the child. And depending on the age of the child, you can kind of target that of what is the best fit, where they might need some support. The practical life skills that are involved are really suited to the elementary age child, because it gives them the opportunity to learn things like how to use a telephone or send an email, how to read a map, reading a bus route, possibly planning what items they need for a trip, packing, finding out any other information that might be necessary to make the trip successful, just as we do when we go on vacation or when we take a trip somewhere with our family, our friends, or even our class if we're a teacher. So whether it's a going out experience or a more traditional field trip, though, doing things like visiting wildlife preserves, national or state parks, even local waterways or landforms, like going to a local river or a stream, a pond, mountains, maybe you have a forest, a jungle, anything like that, as opposed to experiences that are kind of created or developed by adults, really give children this rich opportunity to learn about and connect with the natural world that surrounds them. So even if these types of elaborate opportunities don't exist for these going out experiences, and maybe perhaps better suited for younger children as well, there are still opportunities that children can get outside and explore the world that they live in. You could go on a child-led nature walk. So pause when they want to watch a trail of ants walk across the sidewalk, or when they become captivated and want to touch the bark on the tree, like the child that was shown, or the children that were shown in a picture earlier. You can even encourage a child to bring along a notebook, pause and let them write down their thoughts or their questions. Maybe for a child that's really artistic, you let them bring a sketch pad with them or a sheet of paper and draw what they see, or bring some crayons and let them do a leaf rubbing where they put the leaf under the paper and rub over the top of it with the side of a crayon. You can also encourage them to collect natural artifacts like pine cones, acorns, leaves, that they see that interest them along a nature walk, maybe a shell, and then bring them back to the classroom, because then that is creating that connection to nature and also really helps facilitate learning once you're back in the classroom. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. Perhaps you can even focus on environmental responsibility, that global citizenship Dr. Montessori talked about, by maybe picking up trash or debris along your walk. Gardening is another great activity that you can introduce. Not only is it a really great hands-on activity that develops those fine motor skills, the child's concentration and coordination, but it also promotes patience and supports healthy eating habits as well. So it brings in nutrition. Ideally, if you could, you'd focus on growing edible, organic plants so that children were able to experience that full cycle of growing food and then preparing it so that they can make their own snack or meal as a class. A favorite thing that I did with my students when I was teaching was growing lettuce and tomatoes, cucumbers, carrots, and then we would harvest them all and we would make a fresh salad that the children could have for lunch. So if you were able to join a few weeks ago for one of my presentations about the Montessori prepared environment, we talked about 3 key elements that are necessary in creating a Montessori classroom. And they were freedom, beauty, and a connection to nature. So that's really how important Dr. Montessori felt like it was. It's really one of the 3 elements in creating a Montessori classroom. But even in situations where it might seem impossible to create this huge natural playscape or have an outdoor classroom, maybe there aren't even opportunities for children to go out in nature or have these going out experiences. As parents, caregivers, and educators, we can bring natural elements into the classroom and into our homes to allow children to experience some of these same benefits, that calm, those rich sensorial experiences. Although this photo is still outside, this is a great example of how those natural artifacts that a child collects on a walk, or that maybe you collect as the adult, like pebbles, sticks, pine cones, can be brought into the classroom not only for investigation and exploration. Maybe you just put a basket out with a magnifying glass that the children can explore, touch them, see them, learning about different textures, and but they also create really meaningful academic activities. This particular work helps a child understand numeracy, the idea of one-to-one correspondence, where they really understand that what a number really means. What is 1? What does that quantity look like? What does it feel like versus 2 and 3? And also the relationship between a written numeral symbol and the amount that it represents. You might also have a little basket on a shelf in your classroom in your home that has natural materials that are specific to your area. Maybe if you're by the beach, you have seashells, sea glass, driftwood. Children can take these things and, like I said, explore them with a magnifying glass, feel the different textures and weights, maybe smell them. For a seashell, they might even put the seashell up to their ear because young children are fascinated that it sounds like the inside of the ocean. Those are all those rich sensorial experiences that these natural items provide. You can even bring in elements of nature into the classroom or in your home with plants and animals. Not only does this help children have this connection with the natural world, but it gives them opportunities to develop responsibility because they start to understand other life forms depend on them for survival. They learn that responsibility, that practical life experience of caring for other living things. I'm just going to check the chat really quick, and then we have a final quote. 1 second. It looks like maybe we had a little fluke in the chat. So let me just, outdoor learning promotes teamwork and love between themselves and their teacher. Yeah, this sense of cooperation and community, because from the experience, they learn from each other. I think it's very important for children to enjoy nature because it also helps to develop their brains. and to develop, it helps in anxiety and depression. I'm a nurse assistant, scrub technician. I recently completed a course in occupation health and safety. Thank you for being here. It looked like we had one other comment. Let me just go down and see. We as parents are taking out our kids outdoors every weekend to make them familiar with and close to nature. I live in the USA. I hope this opportunity is made available gradually to less privileged children. Absolutely. So I wanted to just close with a final word from Dr. Montessori, a word of advice from her about the importance of connecting children with nature. So she once said, let the children be free, encourage them, let them run outside when it's raining, let them remove their shoes when they find a puddle of water. And when the grass of the meadows is damp with dew, let them run on it and trample it with their bare feet. Let them rest peacefully when a tree invites them to sleep beneath its shade. Let them shout and laugh when the sun wakes them in the morning, as it wakes every living creature that divides its day between waking and sleeping. And then shown here on the screen in her book, The Discovery of the Child, she also said, when children come into contact with nature, they reveal their true strength. And I think that really captures what we've been talking about, the strength of children, right? That's their curiosity, their creativity, their imagination, this spiritual element we talked about, their physical health, their mental health. So if you're interested in learning more about connecting children with nature, I highly encourage you to check out some of these books shown here. The first is called Last Child in the Woods by Richard Louv. And he brings up this idea of nature deficit disorder. That's not an actual disorder. He came up with that name himself, but he talks about how when children are a lot of things you're talking about, right? On their technology all the time, in front of a TV, on their phones, on their tablets, that there's really these mental and physical effects that have been noticed that he called nature deficit disorder. Another great book is called Balanced and Barefoot by Angela J. Hanscom. And this focuses on how this unrestricted, so child-led outdoor play really creates strong, confident, capable children. And I really loved that because that's what Montessori is all about, is creating children who are independent, confident, and capable. And the third book is called There's No Such Thing as Bad Weather by Linda Akeson McGurk. And I love this book as well because it's really popular to hear in the world of Montessori that there's no such thing as bad weather. It's just bad clothing. So it's really important to give children opportunities to be out when it's really cold, to go out in the rain, to play in puddles, because that is when they're getting this rich sensory experience that's connecting them to the world that they live in. If you want some more inspiration from Dr. Montessori herself, I would encourage you to take a look in her book, Discovery of the Child, which I'll place this in the chat. There's a chapter entitled Nature and Education. So let me place that in the chat for you. So her book is called The Discovery of the Child, and the chapter is Nature and Education. So if you want some more information from Dr. Montessori herself, you can find it there. Forest schools have become really popular, especially here in the United States and also really popular in Europe. And because of that, there are a lot of great books focusing specifically on creating these outdoor classroom or forest schools that we talked about. And these are wonderful tools and resources if you're interested in creating those outdoor classroom environments, but not specific to Montessori. Some of them include the Outdoor Classroom and Practice for ages 3 to 7. It's a month-by-month guide to forest school provision by Karen Constable. There's another book by her, the Outdoor Classroom ages 3 to 7, using ideas from forest schools to enrich learning. So bringing those ideas into other environments. And then finally, the Outdoor Classroom, A Place to Learn by Hilary Harriman.